This is Hick Hudley, hillbilly nobody from the mountains and hollows of Nowell, Virginia. I'd like to attempt a discussion in regards to the Me Too movement about good boys' sexual dilemmas. Now I'll have to do this in 4 parts. I will use incidents of times past to accomplish this. The first incident happened many decades ago when Senator Teddy Kennedy was with a bunch of his family down at the walled compound family mansion on Palm Beach. Well, one evening he decided to take a bunch of his kin out on the town. And when they returned that morning, Senator Teddy Kennedy went to bed and went to sleep. But this nephew Willie of his didn't. And come to find out, while the Kennedy kin was downtown, someone asked this lady to follow him on along back to the walled compound family mansion. Well, I always figured a factor in all this is that walled compound family mansions, I doubt, offer many ready escape routes. And nephew Willie was supposedly a bad boy when it came to entertainment in regards to the follow-along lady. Well, this turned into the Palm Beach rape case. In this trial, the main defense for nephew Willie seems to be, but he's such a good boy. Well, at the end of it all, nephew Willie was acquitted of being a bad boy. But I always wondered if a question was asked during that trial of nephew Willie, which would have been, in an age of safe sex, did nephew Willie use a condom at Palm Beach? Now this is Hick Hudley, hillbilly nobody, and I will continue this discussion of good boys' sexual dilemmas and start the question and answers in part 2. Now in part 2, we got into this discussion of good boys' sexual dilemmas. Now a question must be asked: what causes good boys to find themselves in these social awkward situations? Well, back in the early 80s, 3 friends of mine attended a square dance at this local grade school. And they didn't have permanent seats or bleachers in the gym, so they had to set up 3 rows of metal folding chairs to accommodate the crowd for public events. I always looked at this as job security for the one-man band janitor. Anyway, my 3 friends were sitting in the second row, and there was these 3 elderly women sitting in front of them. These 3 elderly women was having a conversation about this local fella, that he was such a good boy. My friend said it was good boys this, good boys that. Oh, what a good boy. Well, one of my friends decided to try to enhance the conversation, so he leaned forward and says, "Yes, he's a good boy, but good boys' pickles get hard too." This is Hick Hudley, hillbilly nobody. I will continue this discussion of good boy sexual dilemmas in part 3. Now on with our discussion of good boys' sexual dilemmas, one must ask oneself, what does these physical sexual afflictions that rises up on good boys cause to their mental capacity? Now the best answer to this was made by a character named Peggy Bundy on a show named Married with Children, which I always looked at as a study of American suburban life back in the 80s. Well, one day Peggy Bundy was telling her neighbor friend Mossy for a man to get physically, sexually aroused, it takes blood. And that blood comes directly from that man's brain. And that man's brain desperately wants that blood back to the point it will say or agree to do anything to get that accomplished. This is Hick Hudley, Hillbilly Nobody. We will come to the conclusion of Good Boys' Sexual Dilemmas in Part 4. In Part 4, we will conclude my discussion of Good Boys' Sexual Dilemmas. Once there was this black lady named Dr. Joyce Elders, who was appointed Surgeon General of the United States. Well, one day, Dr. Joyce Elders decided to put out a public advisory to teenagers that they might want to try self-manual physical sexual satisfaction before they couple up to try for sexual satisfaction. I always thought that Miss Elders was mainly targeting this advice at teenage boys to give them more of a realistic view about what it is all about. But President Willie Clinton was offended by this advice. Why? I don't remember him ever saying. I always took it must have been somebody told him when he was a little boy back in Bible school. Anyway, President Willie Clinton was so offended by this advice, he fired Dr. Joyce Elders from the position of Surgeon General of the United States. Well, considering how things turned out for that administration, I always felt that instead of firing Dr. Joyce Elders, President Willie Clinton could have took her advice instead and took a hold of that physical sexual affliction of his that when it rose its curious head, I believe this country would have been a lot better off today. This is Hick Hundley, Hillbilly Nobody, from the mountains and hollows of Nowell, Virginia, wishing you a good day.